Good afternoon, everyone. We are here today to talk a little bit more about Google Apps, kind of the more advanced features. We're going to jump through some features really quick. I have a bunch of links in the presentation that if you want to find out more information, feel free to click on them. There's a lot more in the links than what we're going to talk about in the slides. This is one of the longer presentations because there's just so much. Pick up what is applicable to you. Some of it won't be. Some of these apps you might not use at all. So it's kind of just a huge information dump, and like always, take what's useful to you, leave the rest. If you have questions about it, we're going to stop along the way, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end so that you can feel free to ask. So here goes my screen. All right, go. All right, so we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different apps. Some of them you may not have even heard of before. But let's start with the big one. The big one is the Chrome browser itself. That's the web interface that you should be using to get to the internet, to get onto anything. And the biggest thing you want to make sure you're doing is that you're signing into Chrome. And what that means is up here in the corner, if you see on my screen, I have the 3 dots, just like everything else that's Google. We have the 3 dots for menus and more. And next to it, I actually have my school icon. This is my icon that I use for all of my school Gmail stuff. If you don't have your school icon, which for most of you, unless you've changed it, should be an initial, either your first initial or your last initial, or an image if you've taken the time to upload one. But if you click on this, it should tell you that you're signed in as your school email address. If it doesn't say that you're signed in, if it says not signed in, or if it says sign in, or if it says link account or sync account, something like that, we need to get you signed in, because what this is doing is this is bringing up all of your extensions, some of which are forced out by the district, including the read-write extension, the Clever extension, the things that make GoGuardian and different security protocols for the district work. The ad blocker is part of that. So you want to make sure you get in on that. It also is going to save your bookmarks. So all of these little shortcuts that we all save all the time for ourselves to come back to later, if for some reason our computer were to die or something were to crash and you had to use a different computer, you had to swap out at school, or if you had to pick up a Chromebook or something like that, if you're not signed into your browser, none of this stuff is going to sync up with your account. So if you're not signed in over here, we need to get you signed in, and we can work on that together individually. But that's probably the most important thing. It gets you your extensions, it gets you your bookmarks. And then there's a couple other things that are really cool about the Chrome browser. And one of them is that this quote unquote address bar, Google actually has a funny name for it. They call it an Omnibox, because what you can do is you can search for different things up here and you can get different things up here. So if I search for timer, Google's going to immediately pop up and give me a timer. I could search for dice. Oh, let's try, this worked the other day. Roll a dice. So it gives me different dice choices I can choose here, and then I can roll it. And this is a fun way to do little games with your students. So there's you can Google some of these. I think it's called like hipster Google tricks. I'll link it at the end of the presentation, but there's all kinds of things that you can Google that will actually get you tools to have Google do. And one of the really cool ones, and your students have probably figured this out, is if you search, for example, a math problem, and just type the math problem in and hit enter, it actually turns into a giant calculator and immediately calculates the answer for them. So if you're doing some quick math, or if your students need to do a quick check of the math work that they're doing, this is a tool that they have probably figured out even if you haven't. There are tab shortcuts. So if you go up here to the tabs and you right click on them, there's different shortcuts that you can do. So you could send this to different computers. So right now I have 2 computers at home. I have the one I'm working on now, and I have the one that the headphone jack stopped working on. But if I wanted to, I could send this tab to my other computer because they're both signed into the same Google account. I can duplicate this tab if I wanted to have 2 working copies of the same thing. I can move the tab to a new window. I can pop it out by itself. I can pin it. So if this is a tab, for example, I usually have my drive pinned which means it just goes really small and it doesn't have that X out in the corner that most tabs do. When I go to the corner of them, I get this X out. That's no longer there if you've pinned a tab. These are the type of tabs that you use all the time. And if you accidentally, for example, I'm going to close this, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, you can reopen the last closed tab. And the shortcut is Control-Shift-T, but I always just right click. I'm pretty good at right clicking. And it'll do that quite a few times. You can open several things that you may have closed by accident. And if you accidentally X out, a lot of times you can pull up a lot of those tabs that you closed that way too. Okay. Another quick thing that you can do is in your settings over here in your 3 dots. If you go to your settings, if you have the same set of 3, 4, 5 tabs that you always want started up when you log in, for example, your Gmail, your Drive, your calendar, and X2, you always want those things to open. You can go into your settings and you can set startup tabs so that every time you start your Google Chrome browser, these tabs will always start up. And then you don't have to worry about opening all 4 of those things before the students get into your classroom. So the next thing is Drive. A couple things you can do with Drive is you can prevent people from copying your work. So if you're putting together a presentation or you're putting together resources for other teachers to use, but you don't want them to copy them and potentially steal them and use them and claim them as their own, you can prevent copying in the sharing settings. You can make it so they can't make copies of those things. You now have workspaces in your Drive. So I'm going to go to my Drive, okay, over here. If I go to priority, over here in my priority, these are all the things that I've opened recently. But if I go down here, I have workspaces. So these, I've used these quite a few times. These are my current projects I'm working on. These are my newsletters I'm working on, my stuff about Sign Up Genius when we were doing parent-teacher conferences. This was for the tech plan we were working on. These are various web pages. So this is a great place to keep things organized. You can't put folders in here, but you can put any type of Google file or PDF or images in here, and it keeps it in one place. It doesn't move it from where it's organized in your Drive. It's kind of like a shortcut to get to those things, but everything's gathered into one place. So I know that even though these newsletter resources are all over in my Drive, if I come to my priority tab and come to workspaces, everything is here. Oops, and I can always add more files. I can take them out. I can share these with different people. You do have a 25 file limit. So anything more than 25 files, you might as well go ahead and make a folder in Google Drive. Just a reminder, make sure you're muted so that we don't get a lot of back feedback. The other thing when you're in Drive is you want to make sure you have some sort of naming convention. If you're just typing in random things for the title of your files, you're going to lose stuff really fast. So come up with a way that helps you stay organized, whether you put the subject in the front or the school year in the front or the term that you used it in. Or if it's for example, something you want every student to have versus a resource, come up with some sort of convention so that you know what that particular file is used for. I happen to use a lot of colors and emojis in my Google Drive. It helps me to stay organized. So if I go back to my Drive, oops, I actually prefer to look at it as a list. I have these little icons in the front, and what those little icons do, one, they're a visual cue to myself, but also they pull them right up to the top. So no matter what the actual text says, these icons get pulled right up to the top, even before my numbers. So I started a while ago using numbers to organize my Drive. So I did 1.1 because this is what I wanted at the top, 1.2. These were the things that I used all the time. And then Tim Kernan said, hey, I can do that too. And he did that with our West folder. So it flew right to the top and threw me all off course. So then I started using these little emojis, and these are the things that I use frequently. When I'm done using something, for example, I'm not going to be using this responsible classroom stuff anymore. I can go in, I can rename it, and I can get rid of that icon, and now it's going to go back down into the alphabetical order stuff. I try and keep the icons related to whatever it is I'm doing. So this was a work here. This is a check mark because we're checking things off. This was a sun because it's summer. But you can find all of these things on like Bitmoji Dictionary or just Google Bitmoji icons and you can find a whole bunch of them that you can copy and paste like text into your title, your Google Drive. The other one I use a lot that everybody goes, whoa, I wish I had known that like 3 years ago, is Shift Z. And what Shift Z allows you to do is you can take a file. Let's find one. So for example, this one. This is a Bitmoji classroom that I like, and I want to put it into my Bitmoji folder. So I'm going to move it. Bitmoji folder. I'm going to tell it where to go. Got a lot of folders. Here we go. I'm going to put it in Bitmoji. I'm going to move it, and it's going to go there. Now that it's there, I also want it to live, for example, in, let's say, my summer PD class. So I'm going to find it. Here it is. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to hold down Shift Z on my keyboard. And it's going to pop up the same box, but instead of blue, it's green. And what this is going to do is it's going to send this file, and it's going to live in both places at the same time. They're not copies of each other. It's the exact same file, but I just have it listed in 2 places because I use it for 2 different things. So if I wanted to send it to my drive and then summer PD, I would add it here. And now I'll be able to find that file. It's here. The last time it was edited was August 6th. I can also go in the summer PD folder, same file, last edited August 6th. It lives in 2 places. That way I can use it for multiple things. So a good thing to use this for is when you're doing your educator evaluation, instead of taking all of those pieces of evidence and resources and dumping them in your evaluation folder and moving them from where you want them, for example, your parent newsletter, your student progress, your spelling inventory data, all of those places you already have it sorted and organized, you don't have to make copies from it. You don't have to take it out of where it is. You can make it live in both of those places, the evaluation folder and the place that you have it stored in your drive. And you can also force a copy. So if you're sharing a resource with a colleague, you can make it so they're not using your version of it. They have to make their own version of it. And to do that, when you do the copy link, the share link, wherever it says /edit, ... and then there's a bunch of other stuff, you highlight all of that and you replace the word edit with copy. So you're changing the text of the link, and then that link is what you're going to send to your colleague with the word copy in it. And that when they click on it, it will pop up a window and say, you're trying to make a copy of this file, is that correct? And they click on the button. All right, we'll do one more slide and then we'll stop and see if anybody has questions. In Gmail, you can do a couple of things when you're sending email. You can undo your send. So if you hit that send button a little too fast, you should notice on the bottom, there's an undo bar that pops up for about 30 seconds. You can click the undo button real fast and go back and edit your email or add something to it or take something out. It only lasts for, I think, 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and you can change that in your settings, how long that lasts for. You can schedule your emails to send later. So if you know you have an email response that you want to send and you really wanted to send it tomorrow, but you're ready to write it now, you can schedule it to send later. Or if you have an announcement to make, but you want to write it now and have it go out 2 days from now, you can do that too. We've talked about templates before. What those are not automatic responses. They don't immediately bounce back, but if they're responses that you find yourself giving over and over and over again, you know, parents keep asking, where do I find this? Where do I find this? Where do I find this? And you're sending the same email repeatedly. You can save that email kind of like a rubber stamp, and it's in your Gmail settings. You can go in and save different templates for different things. So instead of typing it over and over, you can just kind of stamp it into the email and send it away. There is a send and archive button. So in my Gmail, I have where my send button is. It now says send and archive, and it takes it out of my inbox. It doesn't delete it, it just moves it. So if I were to go here, I had a teacher emailing me about an online subscription to see if we have it. If I reply to her, I turn this on for myself. I can either just send it and it'll stay in my inbox, or I can send and archive it. And what that does is it takes it out of my inbox, but if she were to respond to me again, obviously it would pop right back up into my inbox so I could see her response. You can use labels. So labels are kind of like file folders. You can put different emails into different categories. Emails can have multiple labels on them. So if you have an email that was sent by a parent, it included you and your administrator and your EL teacher, you could label this email with 3 or 4 different labels to have it live in those different places so that it was easy to find based on what reason you were looking for it. You can snooze emails. So if someone's emailing you and you're not quite ready to get back to them, you can kind of snooze that email. If you've ever noticed that your email says, hey, it's been 5 days since this person emailed you. Do you want to respond to them? You can snooze that and turn that off. If someone's sending you data or a date or an event, you can add it to your tasks or create an event directly from within Gmail. You don't have to open a new tab, copy and paste. You can, a lot of times Gmail will underline that text and you can immediately bring it over into your calendar or your task list. There's also a sidebar. So over here, you have all of your folders. You have chatting with colleagues over here on the side. You can minimize that by using these, the hamburger here. And then it lives in these little tiny icons. You can get more out of it. And then there's also, on the other side, this is where your calendar shortcut is, your Google Keep, and your tasks or to-do list. And we also have a Zoom shortcut over here as well. And I think you can add different ones. You just have to kind of go through and figure out which ones you want. And then for calendar, there is a way. So if you are the type of teacher or person who has a lot of events on your calendar and you kind of schedule things to keep yourself on track, you can set your calendar up to send you a daily email of what you have going on that day. And you can also, for example, if you're getting ready to do writing conferences with your students or reading workshop appointments or something like that, you could go ahead and set up appointment slots in your calendar. Have them be as long as you want, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, parent-teacher conferences, half an hour, whatever you want. And you can have a special link to those appointment slots and the kids or parents can go straight in and just pick the time that they want. So that's what you can do with calendar. I'm gonna stop sharing real quick. Questions, comments? Everybody good? Great. Let's jump in.
Sarah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have one comment. Can you go through the forced copy again?
Mm-hmm.
Can you just explain that's for you're trying to share with a colleague, but you don't want them to edit? Is that what you're doing?
So if, for example, if you had a slideshow that you put together and it had information, you don't want them to make any changes of it. You could invite them to view it and then they'd be able to view it, but they couldn't customize it for themselves. But if they wanted to, you know that they're going to make a copy of it because they want to make it for their kiddos, you can go ahead and preempt them and force them to make a copy of it. So what you would do, let me show you my screen. Oops, hold on, I got a lot of stuff going on over here. Zoom, come back. All right. Share my screen. There we go. So what you would do, so if, for example, if I wanted to share this slideshow with you guys, I would go to share. I would go to get my link. I've already set it to anyone on the internet can view. So if I just give you this link as it is right now, you'll be able to click in and see it, and you'll see all of our little icons pop up on the top that we're all looking at it. So I'm going to copy it, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually open up a new doc just so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to paste it here so you can see the link. So here's my link, right? This is the link that will get everybody in. Everybody will be able to view it. It'll be great. But where it says edit and everything after it, I'm going to delete it and I'm going to type the word copy. And when I do that, come here, copy it all again. Okay. Now I'm going to open an incognito window. An incognito window is where you can test stuff. It takes you out of anything that you're logged into. So can everybody see that? It's black. Pretty good? Okay. So if you had a link that you were sharing with parents or you had a link you were sharing with kiddos and you weren't sure it was working, you know it works for you because it's yours and you created it, but you want to make sure it works when you're not logged into your teacher account, you can go over here and try an incognito window. So now I'm going to paste it. So this is the link. See how it says copy at the end? And when I hit enter, oh, bummer. Let's do this one. So you do have to sign into Google because it's making a copy. But once I've signed in my account, which is my personal account, it's asking, do you want to make a copy of this document? And they would click make a copy. So they're not able to see it and have all of those little icons and show who everybody's up on, but they are now getting their own copy of it. And it says, when they make the file, it says copy of Google Apps Level 2. So this would be for families and parents. This would not be how you would share documents with your students. I lost my bar.
Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, what's up?
I missed a little bit the incognito feature.
The incognito?
Yeah.
So it's for testing links. It basically logs you out of everything, and it's just a way to test to make sure that your links work. And you get to that by going to the 3 dots up in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I'll show you. So if I'm on my window, up here in the corner, I go to the 3 dots, and it says new tab, which gives you a new tab, a new window, which is just a whole new Chrome browser window, or new incognito window. And you know it's incognito because it's black. And it might not always be black, but it's usually dark, either dark blue, real dark red, but it's almost always black or dark gray. That's how you know. And it just says you're signed out of all your accounts. It won't save this kind of information. However, keep in mind, and the students have tried this too, it still gets filtered through the firewall and the GoGuardian and all of that stuff that keeps our students safe. So if they think they can go into an incognito window and start checking out racy websites and things that they know they're not supposed to be on, it's not going to work. And we're still going to find out about it. So just because it's incognito doesn't mean they aren't protected still.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But we are as teachers.
You still can't get on those like hinky websites, but like what you're doing is like out of your Google account. It's just a way to test links. It's not keeping anything private from the district. Everything that you do in your Google account, even incognito, has to filter through Google Apps for internet safety protocols.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yep.
Sarah, one last thing, like the
Please.
archive, like why do you want to use that feature? Because you get so many emails, is that, and you just don't want to delete that thread.
Right. Right.
Just
and
in case.
Yep. And there's been many, when I first turned it on, there have been many times where I accidentally hit send and archive, whereas I meant to put send and keep it in my inbox. So when you're in your email, if you click on the all mail button, so here's my email, right? If I send and archive something, it's going to disappear from my inbox. It's no longer going to be in this list, right?
Okay.
But I accidentally hit it. If I go to all mail, this is everything. So you'll notice some of these don't have labels on them, not even inbox. These are things that I've already taken out. So this was a question a teacher had and I answered it, and I don't think I'm going to need it anymore, but I don't want to delete it. I still want it to be there. So I just took it out of my inbox. It doesn't have any labels on it, but it still exists in my email.
That's the thing that's archived.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's keep going. All right, for slides, there's a couple of things you can do with slides. One of the ones that I like the most is that you can actually present with a remote, and you can make that remote your phone. So I use that a lot because I've had those little like clickery things and I lose them and I don't know where I put them because I'm hopping around from room to room. So I never know where it is. I have my phone though. I'm not going to leave well, I have left my phone in rooms before, but I'm most likely not going to leave my phone in many rooms. But it's an extension that you get. It's up here on the top. It's this orange circle. You download it. You put the website on your phone. And when you turn this on, you get this present with remote button. It gives you a code. It's like 6 or 8 letters and numbers long. You put that code into the website on your phone, and your phone turns into a giant next slide, previous slide button. And you can just click the buttons on the screen of your phone to move through your slides from anywhere in the classroom. You can turn on captioning when you're presenting your slides. So if I go to present my slides, oops, here we go. Over here on the bar, on the bottom, I can hit closed captioning and it will caption what I'm saying as I'm talking. So I think this is in the way, but it's captioning what I'm talking. And if you do this while you're screen recording yourself, whether it's through Loom, through Zoom, whatever, your students will have a running transcript at the bottom of the screen, not of what's on the slides, but of what you're saying while you're teaching. So it's pretty cool. And for students who need language translation, you now have the English on the bottom of the screen that if you have a colleague who's doing the translation, they can read what you're saying and translate it into the other language for the students. I'm gonna turn that off. And it keeps going until you stop. There are different ways to present. You can present with question and answer. I've never done it. I've heard it's a little complicated to get it to work, but it can be done if you figure it out. You can also present in black and white mode, I believe, which is kind of cool and different for the students. You also have a way of, you know, when you go into present mode and you have those controls on the bottom of the screen where I turned on the closed captioning, a lot of times if you're doing, for example, a Bitmoji classroom or something like that, or if you're doing an interactive slides where you want the kids to click on things to go to different places in the slideshow, you want that bar to go away. So there are ways to remove that bar, and I have those linked at the end of the slideshow as well. You can publish to the web, which is really great because the kids don't have to sign into Google. They don't have to go through Drive or Google Classroom or anything. It's a website now, which is really nice. You can get really cool backgrounds and templates from Slidesmania. And there's lots of different presenting options. Like if you have multiple screens, you can manipulate that. You can present on another room. Like if you can Chromecast too, for example, if I know some of the teachers have, what are they called? Promethean boards or different display things going on in their classroom. You can do that as well. So that brings us to Sheets. I'm going to go really quick through Sheets because a lot of teachers don't actually use it. There's some really useful formulas though. You can do averages, you can count how many occurrences of something go on. You can do quick sums and counts and autofills if you have some data going on in there. You can sort things, meaning that the sheet will automatically put things in a particular order. Or you can filter things, asking it to only show you if, for example, only show me the students who got an A on this assignment, and you can filter it so that you're only looking at the students who got an A on that assignment and the other ones are just hidden temporarily. You can do conditional formatting where the formatting of particular cells varies based on the information that's in that cell. You can drag the square. So if you're ever in Sheets and you type something and you want it to be the same all the way down, there's a little square at the bottom of the cell that if you click on it and drag it, it takes it and fills in either down or across with whatever information you just put in that first cell. You can manipulate the line breaks. A lot of times when we make sheets and we go to print them out, they print out wonky because things aren't where we want them to be. So you can manipulate where the page breaks are. You can wrap the text. If you've ever had kids write really long answers to a question and the text seems to go on forever, you can wrap it so it's more like a paragraph, not just one long string of text. You can merge cells. And you can also freeze cells, rows and columns, so that they don't move. They live on the side. So like a grade book, for example, you could have different things live at the top, or you could have different things live at the side, or both, so that no matter how far you scroll through your sheet, those rows and columns stay there. You can also protect cells. So if you're having the students fill things in, let's say they're gathering data, but you've already put in the formulas for how the data is going to be calculated, they input the data, kids always click around and they might accidentally delete something. So if you put in something that you don't want them to mess with, you can then protect those cells so that the only person allowed to change those are you or people you've selected. The other cool thing you can do with Sheets is if you have kids filling out a form and they've done their work, they can put a link to the work that they've created into the form. And when you turn that form into a sheet, all of the links are going to be there in a column, which is really nice. You can just click, 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 click right through them and see the various different things they've been working on. The next one is Docs. Within Docs, you can make a table of contents, which is really nice because you can click on the different things and jump right to it. You can turn checkboxes on so that if, for example, you've given the kids a to-do list, it's a interactive checklist where they can actually check the box and it checks off for them. You can put bookmarks on, if it's a really long document, you can put bookmarks throughout the document. So it again ties back to the table of contents so that it jumps from place to place. You can set default styles. So right now I think Google Docs is set to default in Calibri, and like it has different font sizes and styles for titles and headings and plain text. You can go in and adjust those so that whenever you open a new doc, it always has the same kind of text ready to go. I like mine, I think I've on Cabin right now is the font that I have using, and I like my font to be 14, not 12. So it defaults to that. You can also make docs collaborative. So if you have two kiddos working together, they don't have to each be working on their own file. They can be working collaboratively at the same time, and they can kind of write on the doc itself to chat back and forth with one another. And you can put your links in there on your docs. A lot of people think that in order to get a link, you have to put it in Classroom or you have to put it in Slides. You can also put it in the Google Doc itself. All right, the next one's Forms. I'm going to stop for a sec. Questions? Like I said, it's a lot.
Ida?
Yeah.
I have a question about how to protect the cell,
Sure.
please.
So when you're in a sheet, let me open one real quick. Oh, come on. All right. Share screen. All right. So if I'm in a Google Sheet, right?
Yes.
And let's say I have the students' names down the side, and I don't want them to change them because you know somebody's going to come in and they're going to change their own name or they're going to change some other kid's name, and we just don't want to go there. So we don't want them to be able to change these. You highlight them. I want any, because I can come in and add kids as the school year goes on, but I'm going to take this whole column and I'm going to go to Data, and I'm going to go to Protected. And over here on the side, it pops up. I'm going to call it Names so I know why I protected it. It's already said this is what you're protecting. It's protecting all of sheet 1, column A. I go to Set Permissions. It thinks. So I can either show a warning. So if I want somebody to edit it, but I want them to be really careful, it could say, okay, you're getting ready to change something that's been protected. Or I can say, I can restrict. So right now it's set to only me. I'm the only one who can come in and change column A. If I wanted to, I could put it custom and I could list the people that I wanted to be able to change this. So this is something really great for you guys over in the FRC and the translations and all that kind of stuff. You should be the only one changing the Arabic stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Very useful, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, Sarah, it's Pam.
Please, go ahead.
Can you go back and show us how you can, the style or the font, you can default, like how
Yep.
you it always default?
Absolutely.
I feel like sometimes mine like moves around and probably user error, but
No, it's fine. So right now I just opened up an untitled document, just plain. This is how it opens. And for me, mine open in Cabin size 12. That's just
Yep.
what I like. That's what I type in.
okay.
Let's say I wanted to change it. And I want it to be size 16. And I want it to be Railway. I'm on a Railway kick for whatever reason. And I want this to be my normal text that starts off on any document that I open, right?
Okay.
So I highlight it. I go up here where it says normal text. I do the drop-down menu. And next to normal text, I do update. If I do apply, it's going to switch it to what I already have it set as. But when I update it, when I open a new document, come on. Oh, it didn't work. Yeah, it didn't work. It should switch it automatically to the Railway 16 that I have going on that other document. It might be because it didn't have time to sync up. Let's see. Let's close you. Close you. start another one. Try one more time. And then if it doesn't work, I'll figure it out. Not 6. And that just changed it back. So that's definitely not it. Update. So if I switch, for example, to subtitle, it's switching it in this document. It should do it with all documents. Let's try one more just to see. But that's what it should do. You should be able to click update, and then from that point on, whatever you've updated it to, I don't know why it's not working. I'll have to look into it, but that should work. When you hit update, it should copy then into any document you open from that point on.
Okay,
Maybe
thank
because,
you.
maybe because you didn't save the document, it didn't save that
Could
change.
be. It absolutely could be. Who knows? But I'll find out and I'll link like a video just to make sure, but that should do it.
Okay, great,
Sarah,
thank you.
it's Kate. Can you
What's
show
up?
how to do the interactive checklist?
I'll put a video on there because it's got a lot of steps.
Okay, thanks.
Right? Yep. All right, I'm gonna keep popping along. So on forms, a lot of teachers are using forms for assessment and for check-in and all different things, especially gearing up and thinking that we may be going remote. So one thing you can do is you can import questions. So for example, if you've put together a form and you've used it for one thing and you want to keep reusing it, but you want it to be a new form, you can import questions from other forms that have already been made. Or if your colleagues have made a form that they've shared with you and you want to borrow their questions, you can steal their questions as well. You can put forms in locked mode. And what that means is the students can't click out of them and can't get to other stuff on the internet within that browser. That doesn't mean they can't have their phone with them or be, you know, open up a new window and all that kind of stuff. It does lock them down. It'll probably trick some of the younger students, but probably not the older ones or the more tech savvy students. They'll be able to work around it, but it does lock them down a little bit. You can do quiz mode, which has those self-grading questions where you can plug in what the answers are supposed to be for multiple choice or short answer questions. You can turn on required email. You can also turn on so that students can only submit one response. And what that does is it tracks the email address so that they can't turn it in again. You can have the form send students to a particular section of the form based on how they answered a question. And some teachers are using forms to keep track of goals, whether they're student set goals or teacher set goals or reading level goals, or even IEPs. And in the additional resources, I have linked a presentation for a session I attended. There were 2 special ed teachers and they were using forms to track IEP data. And it was just, they had a separate form for each kid and they had different things that they did, but it was a process to set it all up. But they said once they got it all set up, they were able to just enter data. And then when they went to parent meetings, when they went to re-evals, when they went to write up progress reports for report cards, everything they needed was in one place. They didn't have to go digging through piles of paper, which was really nice. So again, that's linked. It's a lot of steps, but it's linked at the end. Google Drawings. Google Drawings is like Microsoft Paint. Remember in school and computer lab, we used to go into the paint and like draw pictures and all that kind of stuff. Google Drawings is essentially the same thing. You can insert drawings that you've made directly into slides. You can also use them to add to an image. And one of the ways this came up was science teachers wanted students to finish an incomplete graph. So it had started the graph, but they wanted them to be able to finish the graph, or math teachers and like functions. So the kids can put the incomplete graph as the image in Google Drawings and then use the drawing tools to finish the graph and then insert that into the slides. You can also edit images. So if you're trying to put an image into a file and you want like the background taken off or you want different pieces cut off, you can do all of that in Google Drawings. Again, there's another link at the end of the slideshow of all the things you can do with Google Drawings. There's a lot. They have auto draw, there's auto shapes, there's all kinds of cool stuff. Google Sites, it's basically a website builder. There is a difference between new sites and classic sites. Classic sites was very clunky, but it had a lot of customization. Classic sites is actually going away. So if anybody's created a website on classic sites, it's going away. And it's being converted over to new sites. New sites is very template. So you have to pick a template, pick a color, pick a font style, and that's what you have. There's not a whole ton of choices, but you can kind of play around with it. And you drag and drop items to insert them in. Some teachers, particularly for younger kids, are using this as a way to get families into Google Classroom because Google Classroom isn't very little kid friendly. They are using Google Sites to link directly to the assignments or activities, and those links are on their site, and then they just change the links on their site every time, every week, every day, however often they are. And then the only thing you want to do is your site draft will save to your drive. So you may think what the parents are seeing is updated as to what you've done, but the parents only see what you've changed after you hit publish. So you have to hit publish every time you make a change if you want your parents and your families and whoever to see the changes that you've been making. Those changes will save in Drive, but they're not going to publish to the internet, to the web, until you hit the publish button. When you hit the publish button, it actually gives you a side-by-side comparison of what your current published site looks like with all the changes that you've made, and it makes a list of the changes on the side, which is really nice. So you can go through and be like, wait, it's been like 2 months since I published, whoopsie daisy. So it's a nice little check-in. There's also something called Jamboard. Jamboard is a collaborative whiteboard space for you and the students. You can throw anything up in there. So for teachers who've been using Padlet, I know Padlet has some limitations. You can only have 3 boards at a time. This is an alternative to that. It's basically the same thing. You can put videos, photos, links, text, drawings, anything you want up in there. It is a virtual whiteboard. You can do it in Jamboard. The only thing is, it's not shared by link. You have to invite your students to it. So if you're trying to do this with 150 kids, you're going to have to copy and paste 150 kids' email addresses into the invitation space so that the kids can all work on it together. If they're not invited by email, they're not going to be able to collaborate. I have a feeling this is going to change down the road because a lot of teachers have complained that that's so different from everything else Google, so that might change down the road, but that's how it is for now. If you're looking for each of your students to have their own whiteboard space, you're going to want to use the website linked in the orange box. It's called Whiteboard FI. And what it is it's no signing in, no accounts. There's no like privacy concerns or anything like that. It's all just it's very simple. But as a teacher, you go in, you create a class, and then you share the class code with your families or your students. The students go in and join a class, type in that code, and they each get their own whiteboard. What you see on your side are little individual whiteboards for each of your students. And you can see what they're writing, drawing, doing on their whiteboard. So you can ask them questions over Zoom. And then on your screen, you can be seeing what they're doing. So you can ask them a math problem, see how they're all solving on their whiteboard. So all those things that we do in the classroom where they're all writing on their lap boards and holding it up for you, this is the website that's going to do that. And they've recently changed it so that if you're having the kids do multiple things, just have them do it in little sections on their whiteboard. Don't have them keep erasing it. You can then print out their whiteboard so that you have a hard copy or a digital copy, PDF of the whiteboards that they've been doing while you were doing this.
Hey, Sarah, sorry to interrupt, but does that say whiteboard.fi or
Yeah.
FI?
FI. I don't know why. It's not a com, a co, all the websites are changing. They're getting weird little ending things. I don't know. But this is FI. And then a couple of quick things. These are some of the add-ons that I use. So slip-in slides, we've talked about that one in other sessions. Let's say you have already given each kid a copy of a slideshow and you want to give them each more slides to add to that slideshow. You use this add-on to send them to each of them. Unsplash, it should already be on your Google Slides. It's a great place to get photos. Magic Rainbow works on slides and docs. It's a way for the words, the letters in the words to automatically randomize colors. So you can go in and there's a bunch of settings on that. The kids have a lot of fun with it. Fillable slide, it can make a form based off the content of your slide. It's fun to play around with. Slide randomizer. So let's say you made slides with sight words on them or alphabet. you can slide randomizer it, and then that way when the kids are looking at it, it's not always A, B, C, D, E. It's in whatever order. It randomizes each time. Choice Eliminator is a sheets and form add-on, and what it does is, for example, if you have 5 copies of a book, once 5 people have picked that book from the form, that choice is no longer a choice on the form. So once it's hit a certain number, you designate what the limit for that element is, it goes away. Easy accents for our language teachers and for our translators. In Google Docs, there's an easy accent add-on that brings all of those different letter accents over for us. Easy Bib is another Docs add-on. It's a bibliography creator. I used it a lot in my graduate program. It's great. It does APA, MLA, whatever you want. Orange Slice is a Google Docs rubric builder. Form Creator is another one for Google Docs. Again, it takes what's in your doc and helps you bring it over into a form. It's a little clunky. I much prefer a fillable slide, but it's an option if you already have it in a Google Doc. Sheet Spider lets you create a Google Sheet as a template. It then sends that Google Sheet out to whoever you want it to go. So like 10 people, this would be a great way to do the assessment grids. You would take that sheet, you have a template, it makes a copy for each of your 10 teachers, but it also takes that data sheet and brings it back into the main sheet as a separate tab for each one. But they only see the tab that they're working on. They don't see everybody's work, they only see their own. Flubaroo is a Sheets add-on, and what it does is it has a little bit more advanced features for self-correcting. So it's another self-correcting quiz type tool, but it has a couple more advanced features than just the quiz function in forms. Power Tools is another one for Google Sheets. It basically splits cells, puts cells together, eliminates duplicates, eliminates blank cells. There's a lot of that. You can do a lot of that through functions, and Power Tools has like a limit of how long you can have it, and then you can only use it once a day. If you know the functions, great. If not, this is a great alternative. Email notification is for when a form is filled out. You can get an email saying somebody's filled out this form. Form Publisher lets you take the answers that someone puts in a form and turn them into a template. So for example, when people fill out an app request for the iPads in the district, I have a form publisher that takes the information they put in the form, turns it into a Google Doc based on the template that I created, and that Google Doc gets sent to the department head for that person for them to approve as a Google Doc. They don't have to jump into the form or the sheet. And then form values. Let's say you have something you want to populate into a Google form question, for example, the 50 states. When I'm making that question, I don't want to sit and type all 50 states. I can have those 50 states in a Google Sheet, and I can tell the form to go to this Google Sheet and pull all of those choices into the form itself. So again, it's a little on the advanced side, but if it's something that you use a lot where you have a lot of choices for something, it's a great one to use. And then one more slide and we'll stop. So those were add-ons. These are extensions. So extensions are the ones that live up on your web browser bar. Add-ons live inside of docs, sheets, slides. Extensions are the ones that are part of your browser. You have Anyone Can View, and what Anyone Can View will do is, you know how many times you've shared something with somebody and they say, I can't see it, I'm not signed in. Anyone Can View takes that Milford Public Schools thing out of it and makes it so that anybody with the link can view it. So it's a great extension. Talk and Comment, we've talked about before. It puts audio comments into docs or slides. Grammarly is a great one to have for teachers and students. It checks your grammar as you go. It gives you a little red circle in the bottom when it catches a grammar error. Print Friendly I use a lot when I go to websites if I want to have a PDF of it or a printout of it that doesn't have all the ads on the side or doesn't have all the images, or there's a lot of stuff. You know how when you're going through an article and there's like this video and then there's this link to this outside thing and there's all this junk. Print Friendly takes all of that out. So you're just getting the content of the article. You can turn it into a PDF or you can print it out. I have the Bitmoji extension. It allows me to do all the Bitmoji classroom stuff, put my little friendly Bitmoji guy on all of my things. I have Custom Cursor, which allows me to turn my cursor into different shapes, which will be really great if we're doing remote learning or Zooms. Webcam Record, we talked about before. It has a 30-second limit, I think it said, but it's good for putting short and sweet video directions into your Google Classroom. It's really nice for that. Copy comments is another one that you could use if you're putting audio directions into your Google Docs or your Google Slides using that talk and comment. If your comments are actually directions for the kids, when you give each kid a copy of that file, the comments go away. So you would then use your copy comments extension to then push your comments out to everybody after the fact. So you would put your comments onto your file, share your file to your students, and then use your copy comments to push the comments out to those documents as well. Open side by side is a great extension for teachers and students to have two things going on their screen at the same time. Drive Slides is a tool that lets you import photos directly into a slideshow so that one photo is on each slide. Pear Deck PowerUp we talked about before. It's for if you've incorporated videos or GIFs into your Pear Deck, you need to have Pear Deck PowerUp for those videos and GIFs to work. Screen Shade allows you to reduce what's going on your screen. And Send to Classroom is a really great extension that allows you to take whatever you're looking at and send it to your Google Classroom, and you can check off which classrooms it's going to. I have heard it's going away, but there's been some pushback because so many teachers are like, wait, I use this 20 times a day. I need to have this. Don't take it away. We love this. So if you do use it, just be wary. It may go away, but it is a really great tool and it may not actually go away in the end. And then I have all those links that I talked about. I also wrote down some more that I want to add on here that have come up in our conversation. So I will add those to this slide as well. Okay. Whew. Like I said, a lot of information. So, questions?
Sarah, this is Pam.
Yep.
Can you give an example of like the open side by side? Sounds interesting. Like just give me an example of what two things would be open. Would it be for me or for my students?
Either or. So if you have the kids, for example, looking at a website or an article, but then you have them taking notes on Google Docs or building a slideshow about what they read, right? Typically, they would have to go from tab to tab, keep going back and forth, right? Or from window to window, which is even a little bit more tricky. But using this extension, they get to have both open next to each other because we can do it and they can do it too. But the steps to do it where you have to pull the tab out and move it to this side and then pick the other tab and move it to this side, like those steps can sometimes be a little frustrating. It's frustrating for me. So if you use this extension, you just click on what you want side by side and it's done.
But like we're clicking on it and sharing it with the kids?
No. So it would be for your workflow or for their workflow. It wouldn't be for you sharing it with them. They would have to manipulate it on their own. You would have to teach them how to.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. But it's more for productivity. It's not for sharing.
I see. Okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Sarah, did you say there was a talk and draw too?
Not a talk and draw. There's a talk and comment, which allows you to put those little audio comments in or audio directions in, and it shows up as a audio player. So they click the play button and they listen to it. Google has something called auto draw, and what that allows the students or teachers to do is you can kind of draw like rough drawings of something, and it turns it into pretty drawings. So you could draw a square and a triangle like a house, and it turns it into like a nicer house. So it kind of cleans up your clunky drawings.
Sarah, one last question back to the talk and comment.
Uh-huh.
So was that the one, I think you said it was webcam record was 30 seconds. Is this also short, just 30
Nope.
seconds? No.
It can be long.
Okay.
So
And
it
it's
could be
for-
like if a kid turned in a piece of writing, you could give them feedback on the whole piece, or you could give them smaller pieces throughout their writing and link different things.
And also if we're giving instructions, would it be better to use the talk and comment or the webcam record?
If you're giving, so it depends. If you're giving instructions and they're short and sweet, like you can fit them into 30 seconds, it's a video, which is nice so the kids can actually see your face. It's not great quality. It's meant to be short and spontaneous. those are great videos to put in Google Classroom for like overarching directions, like watch this video, then click here, then do this, like boom, that's it. The talk and comment would be more explicit directions. So the one thing that came up that we were thinking of using it for is like, for example, the unit math assessments. Our little kids need to have the questions read to them. So the teachers were going to record reading the question for each question, and each question would have a speech button with talk and comment, because those are comments on a document. The other thing is a video.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else?
A lot to digest.
Very much a lot. I know. When I was putting it together, I was like, oh no, I should have made this 2 sessions because it's a lot.
No. But then to look, it's a matter of looking at your video again and trying to, because we have talked about a lot of these already.
Yeah, and that was the thing.
Yeah.
Like when I was putting it together, I was like, we talked about this, but there might be people there that didn't attend the other ones. So
Honestly though, Sarah, like I know you were like, we talked about this, but it's so much information that like,
I know.
I forgot that we talked about it. It's, we need
No,
to
I get it.
it's like we're like any learner, they need to experience it multiple
Absolutely.
times.
And there's just not enough time to like show you the steps for like each of these things. Like for people, like you got to be a little self-motivated. And I'm planning, for example, the extensions and the add-ons, I'm planning to go back and add the links to each of those things individually. So like if you're interested in Slip and Slide, click here and it'll take you to download it. Click here for side by side, it'll take you to download it. And when you go to download it, it actually gives you more information about it, which is really nice.
Thank you,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Are there office hours on Wednesday at 11?
This Wednesday is Tools for Special Ed. Next Wednesday is office hours.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sarah, tell
Yes.
me a little bit more about the Wednesday session. Tools for special.
So for you, you've been to most of my sessions. You've probably already heard most of them. So remember how we did the tools to support EL students?
Okay, that's the one I did not get to do. My kids were home. My kids came to visit, so I did not see that one. So,
But in reality, a lot of what we talked about is stuff that we talked about in the other sessions. Like
okay.
using the read write puzzle piece, using the different EL websites that are out there, using Google Translate. A lot of things you and I have talked about before, like putting a lot of pictures and stuff, just videos are great for the kids, just to see expression and hear
If
voice.
I go on find the video
Yeah.
for the apps with, okay, tech with
Yeah.
okay.
Flip through the slides. I would say go through the slides before you go through the video and just see if there's anything that's catching your eye, and then,
Okay. All right, thanks.
all right?
I know, Sarah, hey, I know there's still a few people on, but
No, please.
just on another note, like last spring, we were trying to figure out ways to monitor, what kids were doing, what work, and we were trying to come up with an easy sheets. Is it sheets? Yes. Sheets, some sort of document where it's a checklist, like whatever we assigned. And I never learned how to do Excel, and I don't really know how to do sheets either. So is there maybe a time, like if the newcomer L teachers, if we're asked to do that again, can we maybe set something up with you to learn how to create the sheets, like so that it works for us? And
Yeah, absolutely. So right now the principals are figuring out their first 10 days, like those 10 days that we now have to figure stuff out. So I know Tim has requested I do a couple of sessions for him at Woodland. I don't know what the other principals have said. I've only really worked with him. I know Craig wants me to do some district stuff. But that's basically what the 10 days are for me, because I don't have to get ready for kids. I don't have to sit there and prepare lesson plans. I'm there to help you guys.
yeah,
So once we
maybe-
figure all of that out, if you guys come
Yeah.
up with a time, we can we can get together and we can build something.
Yeah, maybe I can check in with Kelly and the rest of the newcomers. Like, just what's our plan going to be moving?
Yeah.
How are we going to keep track of things once we go remote? And if we can set something up with you, maybe
Absolutely.
that could be helpful.
And to not interrupt, but to add, we'd already have our class lists by then, maybe.
I would hope so,
I would
but
think
with
so.
newcomers, it's
Maybe
always changing, so.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm still not sure if I'm newcomer or level 2. So
But either way, this checklist
Either
would
way,
probably be a
this
good
would be-
idea.
good information for me.
Yeah,
And that way, if we have practical, the actual kids list, we could
absolutely.
just do it.
Yeah.
No,
Good
I
point,
agree.
Laurie.
This is good.
Would you please include me in this session?
Yeah.
I'm so
No,
overwhelmed.
that's okay.
It's too many things to think about. So I would like,
So
Club.
right now, I'm not planning to do a whole lot of, unfortunately, in person, because I'm not going from building to building. I just can't. I can't expose myself to that many people. I'm planning for most of my stuff to be over Zoom. But I am gonna make the stipulation. So like, for example, Tim wants me to do a training on Pear Deck. I'm gonna say, yeah, I'll do it for Woodland. I'm at Woodland, I'll do that one in person because that's where I'm gonna be. But like, if there's other teachers in the district who wanna check in and they're free and available during that time and they wanna sit in, they can Zoom in. Like, I'll have a Zoom thing open and they can Zoom in. So as long as like people are cool with, maybe jumping in on something that might be geared for another school particularly, but they could still get some good information out of it. I really want as many of the trainings to be open to as many people as possible because I know teachers are going to be crunched for time.
Sure. I just know that they were trying to ask us last year because it was so hard to keep track of students they were doing or who was participating or what assignments they were doing.
Mhm.
And like Megan, who's, just younger and more adept, she came up, do you remember, Lori?